Saptami Amrita Vrishti, Paramananda Nishan, in the flow of supreme bliss. Subject matter is Bhav Bhakti. We started it yesterday. I'll do just, share my screen here. Do a quick review. So basically, subject matter is Bhav Bhakti. That part of Krishna Anushilanam, Anukuyena Krishna Anushilanam. So Krishna Anushilanam has two parts, the active part and the emotive part. Active part called Cheshtarupa, emotive part called Bhavarupa. So that part of Krishna Anushilanam that refers to the Bhavarupa part is known as Bhav Bhakti. And its Swarup Lakshana is Shuddha Sattva Vishesha Atma. The soul of Bhav Bhakti is the combination of the Samvit and Hladini Shaktis of the Supreme Lord. That is its main characteristic or Swarup Lakshana. So inherent to the experience of Bhav are the pair of characteristics of Uttam Bhakti known as Surdurlabha and Moksha Lagutakrit. Surdurlabha means it's very rarely obtained for two reasons. Reason number one is you have to come to a Sakti, and your Asakti has to become very deep. Gadha Sakti. It has to become very deep. So that's problem number one. And then problem number two is even after the Asakti becomes very deep, Krishna delays the gift, so to speak, until it becomes very, very deep, till he's satisfied with the level of your Asakti. The other intrinsic quality to the experience of Bhav Bhakti is Moksha Laguta Krita, that it ridicules or finds contemptible liberation. So it's not so easy to shun off the desire for moksha. We mentioned it yesterday. As long as the desire for moksha is in the heart, happiness of bhakti cannot come there. Katam abhudayo bhavet, katam tasya sukhasatra, bhukti mukti sprihayava pishachri hridivartate. As long as the desire for bhukti mukti in the heart, happiness of bhakti cannot be experienced in that heart. So mukti, we have a little experience of that. We get a little jaded, but mukti, the desire for mukti, a little bit more difficult to give up. We desire to give up the various sufferings that we experience in life. But in Bhav Bhakti, intrinsic to the experience of Bhav is there's no question. You find moksha contemptible. Then you can pray, Jamani Jamanishware Bhavata Bhaktira Hetu Kitoi. Let me take birth again and again. Now we cannot pray like that. Or I gave other example yesterday. Vipata Santu Shashvat. Tatra Tatra Jagaguru. Queen Kunti said, may calamities come again and again. We cannot pray like that. I mean, we can try to fake it, but Krishna knows what's in our heart. Only when you have Bhav, you can really pray like that. You find moksha contemptible. So that is intrinsic to the experience of Bhav Bhakti. This bhava attracts Krishna's, the be-like mind of Krishna. So bhava was compared to a flower because he's been sticking with this image of a desire tree. It first blossoms and then some leaves come and then the buds and then the flower blossoms. The flower is bhav and the bhava is giving off some scent. So Krishna's mind is attracted to that bhav bhakta. So the Bhav Bhakta can have darshan within his heart of Krishna because Krishna is attracted to that Bhav Bhakta. And Krishna doesn't go to a place where there is ignorance. So that means all ignorance is destroyed at the state of Bhav Bhakti. And Ruchi Beach, Chittama Shunyakrit. So this is the other Tatasha Lakshana of Bhav Bhakti, that it melts the heart with all sorts of desires to please Krishna. So if rati is a seed, then these desires are like the oil coming from the seed. And with that oil, you decorate Krishna's body or you massage Krishna's body with that oil. Shri Vishna's giving that image. It's very nice, actually. In the material world, desire is considered as the enemy. Krishna presents Kama as the enemy in Bhagavad Gita, right? What is that? Kama, Esha Krodha, Esha Rajaguna Samubhavaha. The Kama is coming from Rajaguna. So Mahashana Mahapatma Vidyena Mihavirina. So he says it is a great destroyer in this world, and it is the enemy. So every Vedantin, he sees desire as enemy. But in Bhakti, desire is not our enemy. Desire is our how you say, our prospect. In material world, desire is the enemy because it leads you into all sorts of dangerous positions. And we don't have to talk about that here, but we know what it's like. But in bhakti, desire is our prospect. The real desire, the desire here means desire for bhakti, because anya abhilashita shunyam, all the desires have to become zero. So when you have desire as bhakti, that desire is your prospect, actually. Especially when the desire is taken to its, when the desire is connected to the archetype of bhakti that you want to embody. There's so many archetypes of primordial devotion. You can say the primeval or primordial archetypes of bhakti are there. Particularly for Gaudiya Vaishnavas, those the Brijabasis. So our desire becomes linked to one of those archetypes. And that desire becomes our prospect. That desire is our friend, actually. So in this sense, it's kind of like a tantric, this is sort of the tantric aspect of devotional service, where in Vedanta, there are a lot of stress on renunciation. But in Tantra, it's a lot more stresses on how to integrate all aspects of your existence in relationship to your spirituality or spiritual goal. So desire becomes the friend. That seed of desire, Bhav Bhakti, when it comes, is giving out some oil. All these desires for favorableness to Krishna, intimate relationship with Krishna, attaining Krishna, those three were specifically mentioned. And with that oil, you'll massage Krishna's body. And Krishna responds to that naturally. Who wouldn't respond to someone who's massaging their body? With the sweetness of various desires is very attractive. The other point that we heard that was kind of important, or aside from the emotional landscape of the Bhav Bhakta, is that his I and mind is transferred from the gross material body to the Siddha Deha. So right now, I and mind is fixed in the body, right? Pungsasturya maituni bhava metam tayo mita hridaya granti ahu. What is the next line? Sutapta vitaya. I'm missing a lot. Janasya moho yamahamimiti. What is the next line after that? Griha shetra. Griha shetra. Vita sutapta vitaya. I'm missing something, I think. Janasya moho yamahamimiti. Rishabh Dev is saying the material world, pungsastriya. So pungsastriya means the man and the woman. Of course, now everyone knows there are different combinations available where people are that are public now. They were always there, but now they're more public. People are, as they say, coming out. So pungsastriya or pungsa, striya, striya, so many. Now there's non-gender, what they call non-binary categories also are there. Anyway, in all cases, maituna bhava metam, they come together for sex life. Whoever they are, that is the main motivation. Of course, you could say it's desire for companionship and partnership. They say all sorts of things, but we all know what's fundamental. So Bhagavatam is also saying that. Maituna bhava meta, tayor mita hridaya granti ahu. And there comes a mutual tie in the heart. Hridaya granti means the rope in the heart. And it's mutual. Your heart gets tied to that object, and that object gets tied to you. That's why attachment to, the object of sex desire is most powerful. Because even if you want to give it up, it may not give you up. So the computer, if you get frustrated with your computer, you just throw it to the ground. It will not come chasing after you. Hey, why you do this? The computer will not come after you. But if you try to throw away some person, they ever, somehow your attachment is waned. Now you give them up. They may not give you up. They may cause problem for you also. They may kill you also. There are certain instances where they kill you. If I can't have you, no one can have you. So this is called mita hridaya grantiya. This is called the mutual tie in the heart. It's mutual. And from there, griha kshetra sutapta vitaya, one gets house and facilities and children and money and so on. And in this way, janasya moho yamahamimiti. And this way, your eye and mind becomes fixed in those objects. It's very hard to give it up. You understand? But in Bhava Bhakti, the eye and mind is transferred from the objects of this world to the Siddha Deha. So the Siddha Deha means the spiritual form which will serve Krishna in the spiritual world. That's called the Siddha Deha. Specifically in Raganuga Bhakti, there's meditation on the Siddha Rupa, which is like a contemplative form that is congruent with the sort of desire you want to actualize in prema. But only at the time of Bhava Bhakti, you can have darshan also of the Siddha Deha, spiritual body. And your eye and mind becomes linked to that Siddha Deha. Just like now, you're a soul, but you fully identify with the body. And there's no question of distinction. I mean, we can say I'm not the body, but basically I'm the body. Let's be real. We're the body fully 100%. So that feeling becomes transferred to the Siddha Deha. So you feel I am this body. It's a body of Sarva Shakti. But now you feel I am this body. Forevermore, you'll feel that way. And so your connection with the gross material body is like the ripe coconut skin that has detached itself from the shell of the coconut. So it is still inside the coconut. You can shake it and you can hear the skin, but now it is detached. So Bhava Bhakta, because his identity is being transferred to Siddha Deha, so he's in the body, but he's not attached to it anymore. Like this. Basically, he rarely knows it is there. The Bhava Bhakta tries to conceal his devotion, but he has all the symptoms of a Bhava Bhakta. 9 are mentioned by Sri Rupa Goswami. We mentioned those yesterday, the 9 symptoms of the Bhava Bhakta. So the learned devotees can understand this person has Bhav. So this is what we heard yesterday. Okay, clear? Everything clear, right? So he continues discussion here on this topic. So Sri Vajranath says there are 2 types of Bhavs. One Bhav that comes from Vaidhi Bhakti and another type of Bhav that comes from Raganuga Bhakti. The Bhav that comes from Vaidhi Bhakti is called Vaidha Bhava. And the Bhava that comes from Raganuga Bhakti is called Raganugiya Bhava. Okay, simple. And his next point is that this Bhava, these 2 types of Bhava differ in quality and quantity. The main difference is the level of constriction and Vaidhi Bhakti in comparison to Raganuga Bhakti, or Raganugiya Bhav, I should say rather. And in the Vaidha Bhav, there's constriction because of awareness of the Lord's power. Aishwarya Purna Gyan. They have this Aishwarya Gyan, or Aishwarya Gyan means awareness of Krishna's Aishwarya. So there's constriction in the flow of devotion naturally. Just like when Guru walks in, for example. So we have a lot of Aishwarya for Guru. So you don't just go and say, "What's up, man? How you doing, man? It's been good to see you, man." You don't talk like that, Guru. Immediately you offer obeisances, you show deference to his desires. You all the time walk around with your head down, hands in Anjali Mudra, pranams Gurudev. Isn't it? Immediately, because there's some constriction because of awareness of Aishwarya is there. But in Raganugiya Bhav, there's no constriction. Someone feels himself as friend, as maintainer, or as lover of the Lord. So there is no constriction. So in that way, it is superior in quality and quantity. The lack of constriction makes it better in quality, and a lack of constriction makes it better in quantity, because you can do more because of the lack of that constriction there, right? The cowherd boys can step on Krishna's shoulder, right? Mother Jasoda can chastise Krishna. And the gopis can offer their full body to Krishna. So that is, as the level of love is increasing, there's less and less constriction. So it's increasing, and its quality is amazing and its quantity is amazing. So in Vaidha Bhav, there's that constriction there. It's crippled by Aishwarya Gyan. So anyway, Raganugiya Bhava is better. That's what he wants to say. So the implicit indication is, hey guys, do Raganuga Bhakti so you can get Raganugiya Bhav. not directly saying that, but our Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition is a rock mark tradition. So that is the implication of this statement here. So he goes on to say, these two types of bhava are relished in two different ways by two types of devotees, having two different transcendental desires. So as the juice of mango, jackfruit, sugarcane juice, and grapes differ in density, so the sweetness differs in different bhavas. So there's, with subsequent attainments of bhav for Krishna, so there's degree of sweetness in each of those bhavas that's experienced by each of those devotees. So an example is given, not exactly example, it's another point, but it can also serve as an example. So this is the last bullet point here. He says devotees relishing different moods are 5 types, right? Shantarati, Dasarati, Sakyarati, Vatsalyarati, Madhuryarati. These are the 5 types of ratis. The word rati means bhav bhakti also. So the subject matter is bhav bhakti. So these are the 5 types of ratis or bhavas. So the names of the ratis differ in them, right? So we just basically said that. And there's increasing degree of sweetness experienced with each higher attainment of rati, because each subsequent rati has qualities that the previous rati doesn't have. So there's more qualities to taste, so to speak. So I put here as a parenthetical note a section that you can look at from Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is instructions to Srila Rupa Goswami, chapter 19 of the Madhya Lila, verses 211 through 234. You can go and check it out yourself. I'm just going to gloss it here. But basically, in Shantarati means the neutrality love, neutral love. So in Shantarati, its main characteristic is Krishna Nishta. The mind is fixed on Krishna, specifically in its forms as Brahman and Paramatma. So this is also brought out in this section. So Brahman and Paramatma is also Krishna. And Gaudiya Vaishnavism, Brahman is not just like, the impersonal Brahman of the Mayavadis or the Advaitavadis. Brahman is an indeterminate perception of Krishna. You understand? When there's perception of any object, we've talked about this many times over the years, but according to the Nyaya school, and this is also accepted by Vedantin school, in the first moment of perception, you have only a perception that the object is that there's something there. And in the second moment, you actually see it as something. So the first moment is called an indeterminate perception, nirvikalpaka pratyaksha. And the second moment, you have a savikalpaka pratyaksha. You understand? So when I walk into a room, according to this, when I first look at my computer, I just recognize that it is something. And in the second moment, it is my computer. So my perception moves very rapidly from indeterminate to determinate perception. If I could slow it down, that's not possible. But suppose there was a way to slow it down. You can slow down time. That means when I first see the computer, what? Oh, my computer. That's how it would be like that. If you could slow it down, you would experience like that. What is that? My computer, second moment, right? So in transcendence, you can slow down your perception or restrict it, so to speak. So Brahman is the indeterminate perception, nirvikalpaka pratyaksha, perception of Krishna. So Brahman is not like some other thing. Like it's not the Brahman of the Mayavadis. It is the indeterminate perception of Krishna. So when Krishna says, Shamo manishita buddhi, he's speaking about Shantarati here, Krishna and Uddhava Gita. This verse is quoted by all our acharyas. So Krishna says, when your intelligence becomes fixed on me, then you attain Shama or Shantarati. But their Krishna Nishta is fixed on Krishna as Brahman and Paramatma. Okay? Mostly is fixed on Krishna as Brahman and Paramatma. So anyway, this is the quality of Shantarati, is Krishna Nishta. And along with that Krishna Nishta, there's also what is called as Swarup Gyan. You have awareness of your own self as a soul. And you also have what is called as Tyaga Trishna. Tyaga Trishna means you give up Trishna. Now, Trishna means thirst. Understand? We're thirsty in the material world. Incidentally, the materialists, they also use this word to describe their sexual predilections, particularly. They said we thirsty. So Tyaga Trishna means you give up thirst. The thirst is abandoned, right? Tyaga Trishna. So this is a natural effect of having a mind fixed on Krishna, Krishna Nishta. Then you also have Swarup Gyan, and you give up the desire for thirst. You give up all thirst. The thirst means Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami. These are the main categories: Bhukti, Mukti, and Siddhi, some mystic power for control. So this is the qualities of the Shantarati. So all higher level devotees, they experience these qualities also. So in Dasirati, these qualities that are there in Shantarati are also there in Dasirati. But in Dasirati, there is Purna Aishwarya Prabhu Gyan. This is the language of Kaviraj Goswami. They have awareness of the Aishwarya of the Supreme Lord, Purna Aishwarya, all his opulences. They have awareness of that. And that inspires in them desire for service. So in Dasarati, Seva is added. So Dasarati has two qualities. Its own quality, which is called as Sambrahma Gaurava Seva. That means Seva rendered with awareness of the glory of God, basically. That's the meaning there. That is the own quality of Dasarati. But it also has the previous qualities of Krishna Nishta, which includes with the Swarup Gyan and, etc. What was it? Tyaga Trishna. They're giving up all the desires, all right? So in Sakirati, Sakirati has the qualities of the previous two ratis, but it has its own quality known as Vishwasa, which means trust, or Vishramba Seva. Vishramba Seva means the service rendered in confidence, trust. Atma Samagyan. This word Atma Samagyan means they see themselves as equal to God. That is the meaning there. So they render, so that Gaurava Seva is, you can say, downplayed, because now they see themselves with equality with Krishna. And so they serve Krishna with that sort of trust. So, example is given of the cowherd boys, how they will stand on Krishna's shoulders after defeating him in some game. So that is only possible if you can see yourself on an equal level with God. In Dasarati, there's this sort of vertical relationship. God is up top and I'm at the bottom. But in Sakirati, there's a horizontal relationship. We're equal. Okay? So Sakirati has this extra quality plus the previous two. So anyway, I'll describe in brief the rest of the sequence here. But as you can see, with each subsequent reti, it has a quality that the previous reti doesn't have. And so there's something more relishable about that subsequent reti. That's the idea that's being presented here. And the Vatsalya reti, there's concept that one is the palaka. Palaka means the maintainer or the protector. And Krishna is the palya, the protected. So now there's a vertical relationship with Krishna and Vatsalya Rati, but this time the Vatsalya Rati person is on top and Krishna is on bottom. And that's the rest of the vertical relationship is you're on bottom, Krishna's up top, and then it reverses in Vatsalya Rati. And so there they chastise Krishna, they reprimand him, they punish him. So there's qualities in that relationship that is not contained in the previous three. Okay, and Madhurya Rati, the previous four ratis, qualities of the previous four ratis exist in Madhurya Rati, but it has this extra quality known as Nijanga, Nija Anga, where they offer their full body in service to Krishna, all their limbs in service to Krishna. So more relishable. That's the idea here. So it is not that all Bhav Bhakti is this, everything's the same. Just like nowadays, People are so frightened of personalism that they try to equalize our religions and equalize the religious experience also. They don't want to accept that there's difference within religious experience because it can be confronting. For example, at least when I was growing up, I think they still say like this, but the Christians, they say that as long as you believe in Jesus, everyone goes back to heaven. So I remember asking this question many times to Christians over the years. But what about the fellow who's like really dedicated and the other guy's like, you know, as the youth say, living his best life in the material world? And then at the end, okay, I believe in Jesus and he goes back. Why should they get the same position? One showed ardent avidity to serve God, and the other one was doing his thing in the material world and just, you know, says he happens to believe in Christian. Why they should get the same result? But that level of thinking puts too much pressure on the individual. The pressure of, taking up responsibility for one's personal relationship with God. This is one thing that is very attractive about religious movements in general. I'm actually reading a very interesting book about this in my spare time. I just read some, I have different books I like to read. I'm reading this one book called The True Believer. And the book is about the nature of mass movements, whether they're religious, political, or national movements. And they all seem to follow a certain template, which is very interesting. Anyway, the reason I'm bringing this up, one of the main attractive features for a movement for most individuals is the desire to forget themselves. In other words, a lot of us, like if you think about your self-image as it stands now, a lot of people now have a self-image that feels irredeemably blemished, right? Maybe they don't have the job that they wanted. They don't have partnership. They're coming from broken relationships, broken family. And there's a certain point where you feel like you can't bounce back from the sort of damage that's been done to you in your life. Especially as you get older, you may feel this more acutely at times, especially if you haven't lived a very responsible life. And so when the self is irredeemably blemished, or you have a sense that yourself is irredeemably blemished, you desire not to be yourself. And you desire to be something else or someone else. And mass movements have an ability to make you forget that blemished self as you merge into the greater self of the collective. So I'm just a Hare Krishna devotee now. I'm not a devotee individually. I'm a Hare Krishna devotee. I've joined the right church, the right movement, and I chant 16 rounds and I follow 4 regular principles. So now I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to go back to the spiritual world. And so the whole burden of being an individual is released by joining a mass movement, for example. It's very interesting, actually. As I'm reading this book, my mind repeatedly goes to Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, verse 10. Viraragabhaya krodha mam maya mam upasrita bahavo gyana tapasa putama bhavamagata. So Krishna is saying that verse is a very nice verse. In verse 9, he says, anyone who understands the nature of the stories of the avatar can attain liberation. Then in verse 10, he says, many persons have attained my bhava, which means mad bhava can mean a nature like my own, or mad bhava can mean bhav bhakti, according to our commentators. But they had to give up attachment, fear, and anger and surrender to me. So Prabhupada, when commenting about fear, he gives the most amazing comment, which is my favorite comment about this. He says that we are afraid of being persons in relationship to Krishna. And so we prefer a sort of impersonalism. Now, of course, devotees reading this, we think, oh, we just want to be Mayavadis. No, our impersonalism is a little bit different. We want to merge into the greater collective of the Hare Krishna movement and reject the responsibility of becoming an individuated devotee and one of the 4 rasas. So even the whole concept that I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to worry about what my relationship is with Krishna. It will spontaneously emerge that is part of the impersonalism. We're actually satisfied with not knowing who we are. That's impersonalism. It's, and we're satisfied with that. We don't care to know who we actually are in relationship to Krishna. So we have to give up that fear, the fear of the burden of responsibility of being an individual person, and have the courage to charge forward and discover who we are. And that's why I said in the earlier part of the class that our desire is our potential, or our, what I use another word, I didn't use the word potential, prospect. Our desire is our prospect. That will be our saving grace at the end of the day. So we have to discover real desires in Christian consciousness, and that will be our saving grace at the end of the day. Our desires are our prospect. And we have to have the courage to pursue that desire to the nth degree. To the nth degree means to the degree of actually embodying that desire fully as a Bhav Bhakta and one of these 5 Retsis. Anyway, I forgot how I got into that. The idea here is that these are the different relationships, and they have different levels of sweetness. So anyway, final point here for this Bhav Bhakti topic. He says here, Sri Vishnan is saying here, again, these 5 bhavas by their own power take Vibhava, Anubhav, and Vyabhichari bhavs as their subjects and become Sthayi bhavas, permanent attachments, like independent kings, fully endowed with opulences. So I shared the verse from BRS that this sentence is referring to. The basic point here is that Sthayi bhav is the basic reference point from which all the other aspects, all the other Retis or aspects of Reti are experienced, right? So I'm not going to go into much detail here because it just takes a really long time. But you know, Vibhava means the causes of the experience of Bhakti Rasa. So the Vibhavas are 2, the Alambana and the Udipana. So the Alambana are 2 also. Alambana means the Vishaya Alambana, the person at whom love is directed. And the Ashraya Alambana, the person in whom love is residing, or the Bhava is residing. So in order for there to be an exchange of love, there has to be a Vishaya and a Ashraya. Otherwise, there is no exchange of love, right? And then the Udipana means the stimulants that excite the love, or like activate it or catalyze it. The love is already there. If there was no love, it cannot be stimulated. So when the love is there, it gets stimulated by different things. So if you're a Bhakta, you are Ashraya Alambana, and you see Krishna's peacock feather, that will be an Udipana. It stimulates your remembrance of Krishna, for example. Anubhav means the various conscious actions you do to express your love for Krishna. Vyabhichari bhavas are these, and we heard about it yesterday also. They're these transitory emotions that help to, the transitory emotions coming out of the ocean of Sthayi Bhav that help to heighten a certain emotional experience in that bhava and then disappears. So there are 33 of them. So you can imagine the constant waves of emotions. Some examples of emotions are joy, sorrow, envy, self-deprecation. There are 33 of them. And these waves are constantly coming out of the ocean of these devotees' emotion, the devotional ocean of Sthayi Bhav. So the idea here is that the Sthayi Bhav is like the emperor, and these other elements are like the subjects. They're subordinate to the Sthayi Bhav. In other words, you need Sthayi Bhav. Otherwise, these other elements can't really be at play. And then when the Sthayi Bhav mixes with these other elements, the experience that is produced is called as rasa. So that is the second sentence in this first bullet point. When these kings, Sthayi Bhavas, unite with all the above subordinates, they transform into Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Ujjvala rasa. And here in the spring color green here, this is the verse that he's referring to in this sentence. I'll just read this one. This Reti for Krishna called the Sthayi Bhav takes on a pleasurable nature in the hearts of the devotees by the Vibhavs, Anubhavs, Satvika Bhavs, and Vyabhichari Bhavs through activities such as hearing and then becomes Bhakti Rasa. So just like if you have an eggplant sabji, okay? Eggplant sabji, then the eggplant is a Sthayi Bhav. And the other vegetables and spices, those are the different elements that makes the eggplant sabji. You understand? Eggplant sabji is Bhakti Rasa, by an analogy. You understand? Without eggplant, you can't not have an eggplant sabji. You understand? If you're going to have an eggplant sabji, there has to be eggplant. That is the main ingredient. So there cannot be bhakti rasa without bhava, sthai bhav. But sthai bhav by itself is not sufficient to experience bhakti rasa. In order to experience bhakti rasa, the eggplant has to be mixed with spices and other vegetables. And so that is the anubhavi bhav, satika bhav, yavichari bhav. And then the experience is called bhakti rasa. So sthai bhav is, everyone has to discover their sthai bhav. That's really important if you want to experience bhakti rasa. And Krishna conscious movement means this only, right? Krishna bhakti rasa bhavitamati. Prabhupada took this verse appearing in Padyavali, or you can say Mahaprabhu is saying this verse to Ramananda Rai. So Prabhupada took this line and he coined the phrase Krishna consciousness. Krishna bhakti rasa bhavita mati. Mati means consciousness that is bhavita, infused with Krishna bhakti rasa. Consciousness that is infused with Krishna bhakti rasa. That is what Prabhupada has called as Krishna consciousness. So it isn't, sometimes Krishna consciousness means God consciousness. Sometimes we say like that. Right? Krishna consciousness means being compassionate towards your fellow man. All these things are included within, fine, we don't mind also. But Prabhupada has said that he took this verse in a lecture in one of his lectures in the first canto, chapter 2, I think verse 17. Anyway, he said, I took this verse, Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavitamati, and coined the phrase Krishna consciousness. So the verse is saying consciousness that is infused with Krishna Bhakti Rasa. So ultimately, we're supposed to be about the experience of Krishna Bhakti Rasa. So this becomes possible when you have sthai bhav. And then these sthai bhav, like a king, takes these other elements, they mix together, they produce Bhakti Rasa. Okay, each rasa has its own excellency. Shrutis say that the original personality of Godhead is the embodiment of rasa, and the jiva attains spiritual bliss by attaining him in this capacity. So one Upanishad is there, Tatari Upanishad, and it describes Brahman, which means Krishna, as rasa. Rasa Vaisa, he is rasa. So Krishna is rasa. Rasam he dvayam labdva anandi bhavati. And if one attains that rasa, he becomes anandi. Anandi means a blissful person. He attains ineffable bliss by attaining that rasa. So what rasa you want to experience? Shanta rasa, dasya rasa, sakya rasa, vatsalya rasa, madhurya rasa. You try to understand that this desire will be our saving grace at the end of the day. We have to, you can, in a sense, in Krishna consciousness, you can say that Krishna consciousness is about discovery of an immaculate desire. Many times we say self-realization, right? We want to realize self-realization. But in Krishna consciousness, we more want to realize an immaculate desire. And that desire we will become if we discover what that desire is. Sometimes in the material world, everything is about becoming, right? Becoming something. Got to become this, become that. But in Vedanta, we say that it's not about becoming, or it's about becoming who you are. In other words, you actually are something, and you have to discover that. So it's about being. It's not just about becoming. But in Christian consciousness, we say it's also about becoming. You are something, you are a soul, certainly. So being is there. But then after being, it's also about becoming something. And the desire will take you there. So Krishna consciousness is being and becoming. So it's anyway, it's a very interesting thing. Final point here, all the rasas exist in Krishna. So this is the last point in his chapter on Bhav Bhakti. Though lakes, rivers, and ponds all contain water, only the ocean is known as the ultimate reservoir of water. So all the avatars of the Lord, they have some rasa in it, but Krishna has all the rasa. That's what he wants to say. So too, though rasa is present in all manifestations of the Lord and the original avatar or avatari, it does not reach its paramount in them. Rasa only attains its climax in Brajendra Nandana. When Bhav matures and ripens into Prema, then Brajendra Nandana is realized as rasa personified by the Rasik devotees. So, unsurprisingly, Krishna consciousness is about realizing the source of all the experience of rasa. Brajendra Nandan Krishna. Okay, so we'll stop here and see what's going on in this chat box. Sorry, I'm looking at some silly private messages. Okay. In the material world also, we want to get free from stress and anxiety. It seems we have the desire of mukti. Yeah, we do. That's what I was saying. That was actually my point. So I'm saying get rid of that desire for mukti. Not so easy. That was the point that I was making. Of course, as you come to experience Ruchi Bhakti is so nice that the desire for mukti becomes basically extinguished. That's why Mahaprabhu and Sri Shastra come forward saying, Jamani Jamani Shure Bhavata Bhaktira Hetuki Toi. Let me take birth again and again. Just let me have a Haituki Bhakti for you in each life. So basically, the desire for mukti cannot be abandoned until you have a contrasting experience that makes mukti seem pale in comparison. So right now, with the meager bliss that we get from our job, what bliss you are getting from your japa, from your Shravan and Bhakti, minimum bliss is coming. So it's not a sufficient contrast to make mukti seem pale in comparison. So we also like Bhakti, but we also like mukti. Both are attractive. That's a fact. We don't want to suffer. But as you come to higher levels, Ruchi is experienced, and in Ruchi Bhakti, it's so nice that you say, what is this mukti in comparison to this Ruchi even? So you need a contrasting experience of happiness to abandon these other sorts of desires. Otherwise, they cannot be abandoned so easily. Okay, my dear Lord, please place me as an atom within the Hare Krishna movement. Mukunda, you got my point. Unfortunately, this is actually the mood, believe it or not, because it actually, to be an individual is scary. Like, let's be real. The whole reason it's attractive to like watch movies, to do drugs, to lose oneself in sexual promiscuity and so on, is because the burden of being an individual is just too much to bear for most people. So people we're all attracted to that. Someone is just like, I just want to merge. I want to forget the burden, what it means to be an individual. So movements really facilitate that very nicely. So it is a fact. Let me be an atom in the Hare Krishna movement. Okay, I'm looking at a thing here. Private. Okay, I'll come back to that. I love the point on being impersonal by merging to the collective of being a Hare Krishna devotee, without taking responsibility of us being an individual. Yeah, we are fearful of understanding the relationship between us and Krishna. Absolutely. I've said this before, but Ayendra Prabhu, you can hear it in one room conversation. He said that the only anartha that he saw in ISKCON, he said, aside from the good old Bali concept of life, aside from that, the only other anartha that he saw in ISKCON is that we were afraid to become attracted to Krishna. And I don't know, it's just one of those things that just imprinted on my psyche as soon as I heard it, that we're afraid to be an individual in relationship to Krishna. So that is a responsibility of being a Hare Krishna devotee at the end of the day on Rag Marg. According to Gita verse on giving up fear to attain bhav is really a new perspective for me. I always thought fear of being a person means impersonal in Mayavadi sense, right? That's the convenient way of looking at it, so that we don't have to confront our own impersonalism. Thank you for bringing this new definition of giving up fear of discovering our sthai bhav. Problem is that ironically, fear has been instilled in our hearts and minds, and even thinking about such topics and trying to tread the path. Yes. So we have to give up fear. We are supposed to surrender to Krishna by giving up fear. Srila Jiva Goswami writes this in his Krishna Sandarbha when discussing the verse Sarva Dharma Parityagya Mame Kam Sharanam Braja Aham Tvam Sarva Papyapyo Moksha Yashami Mashuchaha. He says the instruction to surrender unto Krishna exclusively, giving up all the Dharma, is to be applied by giving up fear, which is an interesting, I don't remember the full context. It's coming in Krishna Sandarbha, Anuche 83. I'm pretty sure it's Anuche 83. But Jiva Goswami is writing there that we are to apply this instruction of Krishna by giving up fear. So give up fear and surrender to Krishna exclusively. So there is no place for fear in bhakti proper. The whole idea, Bhayam Dutiya Abhiniveshatasha Ishara Petasha Viparyo Ashmitihi Tanmaya Yato Buddha Abhajatam Bhaktyakayesham Guru Deva Tatma. Tamaya Yato. What does it mean to be a Maya? Well, turned away from God, forgetfulness of my own swarup, identification with the body, absorption in Maya, and then Bhaya, fear. Fear is the fundamental ground which everyone is operating. That's how the whole world is moving now. Fear, we're going to die. Oh my God, COVID. Oh my God, vaccine. Oh my God, this, that. The fear. And people are making mad money off of this fear mongering on either side of any political. They're making bank because of fear. So this fear, how you get rid of this fear, which is due to, turning away from God and all that. So Buddha Abhajatam, if you are an intelligent person, Bhaktya Eka Isham, then by doing bhakti, through bhakti to the Supreme Lord and accepting Guru as a Deva, one's worshipable Lord, and as the Atma oneself, then you can give up this fear. Otherwise, not possible. So yeah, surrender. Bhakti proper is devoid of fear. Especially bhakti proper in the Rag Mar, including the fear of establishing an intimate relationship with Krishna. Mukunda said, I'm not sure if I missed it, but did VCT differentiate between the rasas that are achievable through Vaidhi versus Raganuga Sadhana? He mentioned the Aishwarya nature of Vaidhi, but I wasn't sure if he mentioned the difference of attainable goals for each. Yes, he mentions it. I mean, he definitely says Vaidha Bhav and Raganugiya Bhav are different, both in quality and quantity. So Vaidha Bhav leads to the Vaidhi Prema, right? Type. So Prema is a type, Vaidhi Prema is a type of Dasirati. So Dasirati, again, will have the quality of Seva in it, Krishna Nishta in it will be there, Sarvagyan is there, Tyaga Trishna is there. But it's inferior to Sakyarati, etc. So it is indicated there. Because the Prema of the Vaidha Bhakti is Dasir, is basically Dasirati. And Dasya Prem. That is a basic quality there of that particular relationship. Okay, 2 seconds here. One devotee has a concept that Sadhya will be revealed as long as we work hard for the mission and serve our Gurudev nicely. So do you mind clarifying how we can focus on Sadhya and its importance? And how do we know that it's not tinged with material desires? So yeah, some devotees say that the Sadhya will come to you. You just work hard for the mission and serve Gurudev nicely. And then Sadhya will come to you. Honestly, as far as the experience is concerned, there's no problem with this concept either. But the point is, whether it's given to you or it comes to you, depending on which side of these topics you want to fall on, the point is, after it manifests in your mind, what do you do with that? That's the point that we're bringing. In other words, after you get the mercy of a sort of revelation of your sadhya, you discover what your sadhya is, what your prospect is in devotion. Now, how do you responsibly engage with that sadhya? That is the question. So do you mind clarify how we can focus on sadhya and its importance? And how do we know that it's not tinged with material desires? I don't know exactly what you mean by this, but tinged with material desires, meaning that, oh, I want to be this type of bhakta, and it's like it's materially informed. I heard this was the highest thing, and therefore I deserve nothing but the best, and therefore I want that particular thing. I think I'm intuiting that maybe that's what you mean by material desires, and how we know it's not just that, and how we can focus on the sadhya. So anyway, in the presentation of Srila Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the sort of attraction that comes to a person in devotional service is due to sadhu sangha of a particular type in this life and a previous life. So the type of sadhya that will be attracted to you is congruent with the nature of the sangha that you have. For example, people who join the Sri Sampradaya, they are attracted to Narayana or sometimes Ramchandra. Why? Because their Sampradaya pushes is not the best word, but those are the forms of the Lord that are prominent in those Sampradayas. So the people in those Sampradayas, they speak about those forms and devotion to those forms, right? Very straightforwardly. Whereas we join Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So if you're hearing from Gaudiya Vaishnava, who's, speaking to us about the full gamut of Krishna conscious experience, then we're hearing about Brajendra Nandan Krishna. So we're attracted to Braj. If we didn't hear about Brajendra Nandan Krishna, we probably wouldn't be attracted to him. So basically, the type of sadhya that you get attracted to depends on the sadhu sangha that you get. Mahat sevam dwara mahur vimukti. I'm pretty sure Jiva Goswami quotes this verse in Bhakti Sandarbha when he makes this very point. Mahat sevam, by Mahat seva, dwaram, the door to liberation, vimukti is open. Mahat sevam dwaram mahur vimukti, or Mahat seva is the door to this liberated status of life, including sadhya. Sadhya means the liberated status of life, right? So it is through the doorway of Mahat seva, Siddha Mahatmas, their sangha, that these desires come. Oh, for this type of bhakti, that type of bhakti. So why do people get attracted to Madhurya Bhakti? They're hearing from Madhurya Bhakta. Why are they getting attracted to Sakirati? They hear from some devotee fixing that particular emotion. Maybe this life and also previous life. So it's a little bit of a complex thing. So anyway, that's how the presentation, as far as I understand it, is coming in the Goswami's literatures. But there's this other perspective, oh, just serve the mission and then it shall appear. Okay, fine. I'll not argue with that. That's creating a lot of controversy these days. Okay, fine. It has appeared in you, but now how do you engage with that? What is the responsibility that you need to take up once you understand what your sadhya is? So once you understand that sadhya, then the responsibility, as articulated by Rupa Goswami, he says we are to constantly remember Krishna along with the associates of Krishna who embody the love that we want to ourselves embody, the love that's been revealed to us by serving Guru Dev's mission and all that, if you want to take that side of the story. Then you constantly remember Krishna along with his associates who serve in the way that you want to serve. Always engage in their kata. You should render service in your Sadhaka Rupa, following after the Braj Loka and Gaur Leela. And you should render service in your contemplative form, Siddha Rupa, following after the Braj Loka and Krishna Leela. And the Angas of Vaidhi Bhakti are also the Angas of Raganuga Bhakti, but the Raganuga Bhakti will follow those Angas with discernment. So these are the three verses that Rupa Goswami gives when describing the practice of Raganuga Bhakti. So if your sadhya has been revealed to you through hard service to the mission and Guru Dev, then this is the next stage in responsibility. The nature of your contemplative life changes radically. Right now, our contemplative life, do we even have a contemplative life? I mean, the nature of our life of contemplation right now is somehow or other get my rounds done, somehow or other, decrease my sins. It's not a very deep contemplative life. There's no tea, no shade. There's just what it is. But after you have the revelation of your sadhya, in the case of this devotee's presentation, or you come to identify strongly with a sadhya due to Mahat Sangha, then this next responsibility comes up. How to responsibly engage with that sadhya, now that you know what your goal is. How do I progressively move towards that sadhya? So that's another big topic. Maybe I was thinking about doing Rag Bhartman Chandrika after this, although I'm actually in the last week of my prayer course. So we could go back to our regular scheduled programming, Srimad Bhagavatam, although I will do it a little bit different because of time constraints and world constraints. But I was also thinking about doing Rag Bhartman Chandrika, which delineates the responsibility of a devotee who has identified his sadhya and wants to move progressively toward it. So it's a very wonderful and important book, also from Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So I hope that answers your question. That's what I got for right now. Okay. Siddha Hari Prabhu, looks like you want to say something also.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hari.
Prabhu, I was wondering that we also hear in the Bhagavatam, I'm sorry not able to find the passage or can't remember the passage for it, where Prabhupada mentions that one should not aspire to become like Mother Yashoda, but should aspire to become her servant or something of that sort. And I was also thinking that also brings some amount of fear in terms of approaching Krishna, because it seems such a high place to aspire to have a relationship with Krishna. You know, as you're mentioning that fear, that I could never imagine that, you know, having or even aspiring to having a relationship with Krishna in that sense. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't know what Prabhupada is 100% referring to, but in the presentation of this subject matter in BRS, there are some people who desire to be Mother Yasoda or Yudhishthira or Nanda Baba. And so Rupa Goswami makes a statement that this is a hunger upasana worship, like impersonalism. And so that has to be given up. And but you can't be Mother Yasoda or Nanda Baba, but you can embody their sort of bhakti and follow in their footsteps. Raga Anuga Bhakti. That is the very meaning of Raga Anuga, following the raga of the Ragatmika devotees like Jasoda and Nanda. So I would conjecture that Prabhupada is referring to that statement of Rupa Goswami in that particular example. As far as the fear of what am I and what is that desire? Such a high thing that desire is, and I'm such a low thing. So how can I be so audacious? Well, you can be audacious on the strength of mercy. The Guru and Sadhus are embodiments of the Kripa Shakti of the Lord. Basically, the Lord, we mentioned this the other day, I think also, the Lord or the Nitya Siddhas, they've never experienced suffering. That's due to avidya. So in a sense, they can't fully empathize with the plight of the conditioned souls. Who can? Well, the bhaktas can do that. So they're considered as the Kripa Shakti of the Lord. The compassion of the Lord follows after the compassion of the sadhus. And the sadhus, they have such high immaculate things, and they're trying to distribute that. Isn't it? Mahaprabhu is also trying to distribute that. Anarpita chanem chara kunanayavatir nakalo. This verse is coming, third verse, right? Mahaprabhu desired to give the Ujjvala Bhakti Rasa, Swabhakti Shriyam, to the people of Kali Yuga. He hadn't given it in a long time. So for this reason, he came as Mahaprabhu. This is Bahiranga Vichar, his external reason for coming. So yeah, to attain such immaculate things is not possible on our own strength. But we're not treading the path of bhakti on our own strength. So I would say to that, confidence in sadhu guru is the key to such audaciousness. Just like sometimes, this is a crude example. Sometimes when you're with a dog, a small dog is there, he's with his master, and a bigger dog comes and he starts barking, but on the strength of the bigger master is there. Or sometimes you see the master is holding the dog up And then the small dog is barking at this bigger dog who's on the ground. And I always imagine, I'm like, these dogs must talk so much smack to each other, but this small dog is there. He's being held up by the master. So he has confidence in the master will protect. Or sometimes if you have an older brother, remember growing up, you have an older brother, then you have courage to fight with the other kids because your older brother was there and he will protect you. So on the strength of the older brother, I could be audacious and fight with all these guys. So on our own strength, we cannot be so audacious. But on the strength of mercy coming from Guru Dev, coming from sadhus, then we can be audacious. What is our audaciousness? I want that thing. Oh, but that is a very high thing. But my Guru Dev said, this is the thing I should go for. So I'm going for that thing. I will be so audacious on the strength of my Guru's mercy. So I would say it depends on our confidence in Guru and sadhus. Then you can be audacious. But if you don't have faith in sadhus and gurus, then how can you be so audacious? We're just a new, tiny, insignificant jiva. You say, I want that thing. Everyone will laugh at us, as they should. It would be appropriate laughter. But you say, my Guru Dev is told this. They say, oh, we know your Guru. He is very great soul. All right, then. Go and try for it. And they will become our cheerleaders also. We'll be struggling like anything to go, but they will become our cheerleaders. Go for it. You'll get despondent. Oh, I'm so low. I'll never be able to attend this thing. But in the heart, they'll go, no, keep trying, keep trying. They'll applaud. Just like sometimes in sports, when a particular player is losing, like he getting like just completely stomped on. And you can hear the audience, like when he finally gets 1 point, everyone's like, woo, woo. And they really try to like egg him on, encourage him. So you'll get encouragement from within and without because you're going for the rhino, right? Prabhupada, shoot for the rhino. If you don't get it, no one will blame you. But if you do get it, everyone will think you are a great soul. So you're going for the rhino on the strength of the encouragement of Guru Dev, of Guru Varga. So what is the problem? We can be audacious, on their mercy, on the strength of their mercy, not otherwise. That would be if I had to comment on that, that's how I would comment.
Wow, that was so encouraging to hear. Thank you, Prabhu.
I think I have fear that I have no desire. Yeah, that is the worst thing for a bhakta. Only thing worse than like people are like struggling with, I have this anartha, that anartha. Honestly, that's not really that big of a deal. As long as the anartha is not the aparat type. But, most of the anarthas that devotees tend to get really despondent with are their predilection to sinful activity, or just like kind of like low material desires. And we're just like, oh my God, I'm so low. I'm so fallen. That is not a big deal. Honestly, it's not that big of a deal. You've been in the material world since practically forever. You're bound to have low material desires and play them out. That's just the way life goes. There's no problem there. You just have to make progress in your bhakti. The only thing that's actually fearful is to be apathetic toward the cultivation of your bhakti. And then the cultivation of desire, that apathy, which is a form of impersonalism, that thing is scary. So that's why we have to, put ourselves in mercy's way, so to speak, vibrations that help us to get attraction and appreciation for this sort of desire that will save us. The desire for the sadhya is our redemption. Every soul in the material world is looking for redemption, believe it or not. I didn't realize I was looking for, because redemption has such a Christian-y feel to it. It's like kind of off-putting. But actually, the fact of the matter is we're looking for redemption. And you actually start to feel this as you get older. It's just something that I'm noticing as I get older, that you feel the need for redemption more. Because when you're young, you're arrogant, puffed up, you're still kind of completely bewildered by your senses. So you don't feel it so much. But as you get older, you've not achieved the things you want to achieve materially or spiritually. Your spiritual life may not be up to par as far as you're concerned, and so on. The need for redemption becomes more acute. And this is, I think, another reason why people end up joining like mass movements and so on. It's a redeeming factor. My blemished self can now be redeemed by merging into the greater collective. And so we're all looking for redemption. So this desire for the sadhya is our redemption. Our redemption can be found in pursuing that desire. And so whatever we have to do to get it, by hook or by crook. And this verse, Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavitamati. So it says this thing is not attained by, thousands and millions of pious activities, but is attained by someone who's greedy for it, who really is greedy for this Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavitamati. They're greedy for that desire. So you do what you can, read Krishna Lila, hear Krishna Lila, read and hear some of these books that encourage us in that sadhya. And of course, continue to serve Gurudev's mission and Gurudev himself. All these things together will help destroy the apathy in the heart, the impersonal apathy, which is the only really fearful thing for a bhakta. Why do you think all of our acharyas, they spend so much time fighting against impersonalism in their literatures? All of them, from the Goswamis down to Srila Prabhupada, they all spend so much time fighting against impersonalism. And we hear because impersonalism is the greatest threat to bhakti. So we always just thought Mayavad philosophy. Yeah, that's an easy way of thinking about it. But there's this other way of understanding it, which is the experiential way. We suffer from impersonalism as conditioned souls. And so that's the only really fearful thing for bhakti. So do what you got to do to make sure that the impersonalism doesn't win, by hook or by crook. Just by some of these classes that I'm giving now, you can have intuitive insight what you might do in order to help you in this regard. Read Krishna book every day. Hear Krishna Lila from, Guru. Whatever. You'll read books about Raganuga Bhakti, whatever. You'll figure out what you have to do to get inspiration, to at least remain treading on the surface of the desire for a sadhya. And along with your seva to the mission, all that, you'll be safe. We'll all be safe. But yeah, definitely we should recognize that apathy is a real danger. Yeah, what you say is true. What you say is true. So good luck to us all on our sojourn towards our prospect in Vrindavan Bhakti. May the odds be ever in our favor. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur ki jai, Sri Madhurya Kadambini ki jai. Go Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. Later, family.